Chapter 391. So when she mentioned the upper realm, Yiqing Luo's mouth turned into an O shape. Chi said, the human dragon's position in the dragon clan is second only to one of the 4 ancient sacred beasts, Azure Dragon. Long Yunzhan saw that she understood what kind of place the upper realm was and directly chose the human dragon to explain. It's already difficult for other high-leveled mirage beasts to cultivate into a human, and it's even more difficult for the dragon clan. Our human dragon clan, every dragon can transform into a human, but the price to pay is too high. Because of this, there aren't many dragons in the human dragon clan. At its most prosperous time, there were only 300 over-dragons and gradually, there were only 100 over-dragons left. After that, in a great battle in the upper realm, the human dragon clan was exterminated, and I may be the human dragon who escaped from the upper realm during the battle. These were all Chi-Chi's remarks and guesses. Long Yunzhan lowered his eyelids. Actually, I still can't believe it and haven't figured out the cause and effect of this matter. Ever since he could remember, his wish was to find out his origins, to regain his memories. But now, knowing his own origins, Long Yunzhan didn't feel any joy at all. He wasn't human, so he had a pair of different eyes. Moreover, the identity of a human dragon was too heavy. In the great battle in the upper realm, the human dragon clan was exterminated, which meant that he was shouldering the blood feud of the human dragon clan. Everything that he knew was pressing on him one by one. After knowing all these, Long Yunzhan wanted to tell Yiqing Luo. Because Yiqing Luo was Chi-Chi's master, she would definitely be able to give him an answer on what to do. But every time he saw Yiqing Luo, he didn't know where to start. He wasn't human but a dragon. This sentence he couldn't say it out. Was he afraid that after Yiqing Luo knew all these, she would despise him for being a monster? Or was he afraid that Yiqing Luo would also use that strange gaze to look at him? Long Yunzhan couldn't explain clearly what kind of feeling this was. Are you resisting your identity as a human dragon, or resisting the blood feud of the human dragon clan? The lady's clear voice, light and pleasant, spitting out every word extremely clearly. A soft little hand rested on his shoulder. Long Yunzhan was stunned. The little hand on his shoulder was very warm, so warm that it seemed to seep through his clothes and heat up his skin. Long Yunzhan's heart uncontrollably sped up again. This kind of inexplicable feeling made Long Yunzhan feel vexed as he wanted to push Yiqing Luo's hand away but he couldn't bear to. When he heard Yiqing Luo revealing his thoughts in one sentence, he instantly had a flustered feeling as though his inner thoughts had been seen through. This kind of panic came out of nowhere. What did he have that he was afraid of Yiqing Luo seeing through? If you reject the identity of a human dragon, you just need to live as a human. If you don't say anything, who will know? Yiqing Luo's voice was indifferent with a calming effect. Since you've chosen to live as a human, then this blood feud has nothing to do with you, right? Yiqing Luo's tone was very serious and wasn't teasing. If others knew about Renlong's identity, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Heaven chose to make you lose your memory to let you stay in the devil class, so it might be Heaven's will to let you start your life anew as a human. Live on. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a warm arc. The war in the upper realm was bound to be a huge war. Chapter 392. The path of revenge is too arduous and too dangerous. It's better to leave this life and leave you, the only human dragon bloodline. Perhaps, one day in the future we will be able to head to the upper realm. When we have that kind of strength, if you wish, you can investigate everything about the human dragon clan and investigate your own companions. Yiqing Luo's words were very light but it contained a lot of power. Before we have enough strength, what we need to do is to live well and fight for more possibilities. This was also Yiqing Luo's way of survival. Losing her profound heart jade, she almost lost her life. If it wasn't for the fact that Dmo Xian gave her a profound heart jade, she would have been killed in Three Springs sect. It was impossible to say that she didn't hate the person who dug away her profound heart jade. What belonged to her, she would always get it back. But before her strength reached the level where she could get her profound heart jade back, she would not act rashly. Having lived 2 lives, Yiqing Luo knew patience the most. Live well and fight for more possibilities. If she lost her life, how could she talk about revenge? How could she talk about getting back what belonged to her? The world was big, but nothing was bigger than living well. Long Yunzhan's pair of hazy eyes gradually brightened up. The azure blue waves were like circles of ripples. Thank you. Long Yunzhan's eyes were filled with excitement. The thing that had been bothering him finally got the best answer. There's no need for thanks between brothers. Yiqing Luo saw that he could understand and her eyes were filled with a warm smile. Brother. Long Yunzhan's eyes flashed and his lips curled into a smile. And brother. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Yiqing Luo recalled that he had just advanced to the profound grade, that dazzling light. It really didn't look like an ordinary profound grade. Just now, what stage did you advance to? Earth profound 9th grade. The 4 words were like lightning striking into Yiqing Luo's eardrums. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. What? Earth profound 9th grade? Looking at the entire heavenly academy, even including the masters and elders, how many people were above the Earth profound 9th grade? The human dragon was worthy of being the only human dragon comparable to an ancient sacred beast. What the hell? Transforming into a human, this strength was also unbelievably strong. It's all thanks to you. I was previously stuck at the 7th grade of the Earth profound realm, and couldn't advance no matter what. If it wasn't for you guiding the dragon's power to fuse with my profound jade heart, I wouldn't have advanced 2 levels in a row. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with grief and indignation, Long Yunzhan threw another explosive strike. One must know that when Yiqing Luo broke through from Yellow Profound 9th grade to Mystic Profound, she had expended a huge amount of energy and now she was unable to advance to Mystic Profound 4th grade and above. Not to mention the Earth Profound realm, if they wanted to advance a grade, some people would spend hundreds of years, and still wouldn't be able to move their grade. Back then, she had thought that jumping from the Yellow Mystic 9th grade to the Mystic 4th grade was already an extremely powerful talent. He didn't expect that there would be a person in the Earth Profound realm who had consecutively advanced 2 levels. Mother asterisk her. She didn't want to be brothers with Human Dragon anymore, it was too oppressive. However, Long Yunzhan didn't realize how oppressive his words were. He had already stood up, and the expression on his face had reverted to his usual aloof self. This is a good place, the heaven and earth's spiritual chi is abundant. If you are free, come and sit here for a while, it will also help to advance your profound grade. Sit. You must sit. Ever since she knew that this was a treasured land, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let go of this treasured land. Chapter 393. That very day Yiqing Luo stayed overnight in the treasure land. He had completely forgotten that demon of hers would wait for her in the dormitory every night. Moreover, she hadn't even solved the problem of the dormitory being destroyed by the assassin and Long Yunzhan. The current Yiqing Luo was enjoying the comfortable feeling of the spiritual chi filling her limbs and bones, lingering around her profound heart jade. His main body was being nourished by the abundant spiritual energy, and his spiritual sense was being healed by the azure dew bracelet. It was very comfortable. On the second day, Yiqing Luo felt refreshed from head to toe after a night of replenishing her chi. She stood up and swallowed another medicinal pill that the ghost doctor had given her to treat her internal injuries. Borrowing the spiritual energy of this place, she allowed the medicinal effects to fuse into her bones and blood. Baiming Lulu mentioned that she would be able to recover by 70 to 80% before the holidays. It was only the second day and Yiqing Luo had already recovered by 70 to 80%. Now that she didn't need painkillers, she could still maintain a normal expression on her face. If he wanted to participate in the training, it was still a little forceful. When they arrived at the freshman training ground, Yiqing Luo wanted to discuss with the instructors to reduce the training for today. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived at the training ground, before he could even speak to the instructor, he was ordered to clean up the second floor of the library. They had just cleaned yesterday. What else was there to clean today? This was obviously deliberately making things difficult for Yiqing Luo, not allowing her to participate in the training. The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. Wasn't Yiqing Luo the person whom the cold-faced instructor admired the most? I heard that student Yi was assassinated by an assassin yesterday and even fainted at the scene. A sharp and mocking voice came from among the students. Xuanhuan Lioli covered her mouth and laughed, her eyes filled with disdain and ridicule. What capabilities did Yiqing Luo have? He could only act arrogantly in front of freshmen like them. Wasn't he scared out of his wits the moment he encountered a killer? If he knew that Yiqing Luo was so useless, he would have used some money to find a high-profound class student to pretend to be a killer to scare her. The freshmen naturally heard about this as well. Yesterday the female dormitory had collapsed and Yiqing Luo was carried to the director's office. This matter was too sensational, and the academy had no way of completely suppressing it. In their eyes, Yiqing Luo was the strong. Even if Yiqing Luo was allocated to the devil class, but her ability was seen by the freshmen. Unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo fainted from fright after meeting the killer. This was something that the students were unable to accept. Instructor Chu's face was cold and his voice was cold. As a student under my training, You actually fainted in the face of an assassin. What a disgrace to my reputation. Now, scram to the library and reorganize the books that you organized yesterday. That was a reasonable excuse. Yiqing Luo understood in her heart as she lowered her eyelids and responded obediently. Instructor Ho's face was gloomy, his sharp eyes swept over Yiqing Luo. After a while, he put his hands behind his back, turned around and walked towards the gate of the training field. When Yiqing Luo saw that, she immediately followed up. At this time, the sky was gray, and the freshmen had already gathered at the training ground. Occasionally, a few students would pass by. Instructor Ho leaned against the door, his eyes cold. I know you're not the type to faint. She didn't expect Instructor Ho to be explaining to her. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed by the favor and shook her head. I know, you and Instructor Ho are thinking for my sake. Instructor Ho was silent for a moment. His cold gaze swept over her arm. Are you hurt? Yes. Yiqing Luo didn't hide it. How did you and Instructor Chu find out? Face expression. These two simple words were to answer Yiqing Luo, and at the same time to warn her. If you really wanted to hide it, then you must hide your face and expression appropriately. Chapter 394. Yiqing Luo suddenly realized as she thought about it carefully. It was probably when Lu Xiaoyu was agitated and grabbed her arm and touched her wound which made her unable to control herself as her expression changed slightly. She had not expected such a minute expression to be seen through by the instructor. Go to the library pavilion, Ghost Doctor is waiting for you there. When Yiqing Luo heard the two words Ghost Doctor, she went into a blank as she raised her head abruptly. Instructor knew Ghost Doctor? Wasn't it said that Ghost Doctor had a bad temper and was a lone wolf? What greeted her was Instructor Ho's stern shout, still not going to scram. This shout made Yiqing Luo's mind go blank. Instructor Ho was too immersed in his role. Yiqing Luo facepalmed. The two cold and aloof instructors actually cooperated with her to put on a show. Yiqing Luo touched her deafened ears as she nodded and bowed, with her tail between her legs, as she left the freshman training grounds. Yiqing Luo took the punishment slip and went to look for the administrator to open the second floor's door for her. The administrator yawned as he climbed up and shot a strange gaze over. She came yesterday and today she was punished to clean? He started to suspect if Yiqing Luo had used the excuse of cleaning to specially head up to the second floor to read the premium books. He even specially checked several times to see if this punishment slip was forged. But the punishment slip flickered several times on Instructor Ho's sensory stone. It was indeed the punishment order which Instructor Ho had given. The administrator had naturally heard of the legend of the cold-faced instructor and didn't dare to suspect anything as he immediately led Yiqing Luo up to the second floor. The books on the second floor were all swept clean by Qiao Jin and the others yesterday, neatly and tidily. Yiqing Luo was just putting on an act as she tidied up the books once again. It was until the administrator went down to the first floor full of suspicions when Yiqing Luo then walked towards the pill refining room vigilantly. The door of the pill refining room was half opened and not as tightly shut as yesterday. Her hand had just touched the door when her ears suddenly twitched. Her long and narrow eyes curled into a ridiculing cold arc. Her pink lips rose slightly as she hid the cold smile in her eyes as she directly pushed the door and walked in. After the door of the pill refining room was closed, a black figure appeared beside the bookshelf on the second floor. A pair of sharp eyes stared fixedly at the door of the medicine refining room. It was still early in the morning and the library was not open yet. At this moment the entire library was silent. He could vaguely hear the sound of porcelain bottles colliding in the refinement room. In order to confirm something, the black figure moved closer to the medicine refining room. At this moment the woman in the refining room muttered, Juku spirit horn, Chinya Lu Ganoderma powder. These are the ingredients to refine the Juku spirit pill. This Tianyuan grass and viridescent spirit vine are the main ingredients for refining 7-star grass. It's used to treat external injuries. Soon after, the sound of herbs being pulled could be heard. The black shadow listened for a long time, only to hear a series of names and effects of the medicines. After about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the black figure was worried that the ghost doctor would come and catch him red-handed, so he quietly left the second level of the library pavilion. In the medicine refinement room, the woman who was leisurely dividing the herbs and muttering non-stop suddenly stopped and stopped muttering. She put down the herbs as her long and narrow arc eyes revealed a cold glint. She knew that that old fox would absolutely not believe her words so easily. If he wasn't sure if she was really hiding in the pill refining room and had been taken in as Ghost Doctor's disciple, the director would definitely deal with her ruthlessly once again. Luckily, she was able to enter the pill refining room and ramble on about the herbs because she had the ghost doctor's permission. Chapter 395. Continue reading. Why don't you continue reading? Suddenly, the bookshelf gave off a loud noise, and behind the bookshelf, a hole was split open. Ghost Doctor walked out from the secret room with a cold expression. Yiqing Luo immediately stood up and greeted, "Senior Ghost Doctor, good morning. Just wanted to find a lass who knows about medicinal herbs and has some innate talent to help me tidy up this alchemy room, but I didn't expect to pick up such trouble." Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes as she looked down, not saying a word. She was able to discover that someone was guarding outside. For someone as powerful as Ghost Doctor, he would definitely discover that someone was spying on her. "I can't be bothered with your trivial matters, so don't drag this matter into the alchemy room. If you disturb my peace, then scram out." Yiqing Luo had heard that Ghost Doctor was only thinking about alchemy, and what he was most afraid of was trouble. Ghost Doctor's words were very clear. Regarding yesterday's matter, he wouldn't interfere and wouldn't bother about it. Which meant that the only person who knew that she was locked in the secret room after eavesdropping on the conversation between the director and the guardian. Ghost Doctor wouldn't divulge any information about this. She immediately nodded, "I've remembered it." Ghost Doctor walked over directly as he took out a few pills which were glowing, and casually scattered them on the table. "Keep these pills. Have you finished reading the books which I asked you to read yesterday?" Yiqing Luo recalled that Ghost Doctor had thrown several books to her, and later on she was being pursued and found out that Long Yunjian was a human dragon, so where would she find the time to read? She pursed her pink lips as she carefully picked up those pills, and placed them into the tidied-up porcelain bottle as she replied, "Yesterday in the secret room I've already finished reading those 2 books. Don't think about improving." Ghost Doctor gave a disdainful snort as he flicked his sleeves and walked towards the secret room, sort out the medicinal herbs in the medicine cabinet, and paste the medicinal names on the cabinet. Saying that, he didn't look at Yiqing Luo's expression as he walked into the secret room. The secret room's entrance was tightly shut again. Yiqing Luo? Did he need to be so willful? This old man was even more willful than Guiyu. Yiqing Luo turned her head and took a look at the right side of the pill refining room, at those 2 huge medicinal cabinets. Adding them up, there were at least 400 to 500 drawers. Instantly the wind became chaotic. As expected, no matter where he went, he couldn't escape the fate of tidying up. Yiqing Luo sighed softly as she deftly packed all the pills which Ghost Doctor had thrown on the table, and placed them neatly on the medicine bottle rack. Only then did he walk to the medicine cabinet and pull open a drawer. The drawer was full of all kinds of medicinal herbs, piled up into a ball. At a glance, there were at least 7 or 8 different kinds of medicinal herbs. Even if he was afraid of trouble, he should at least put some thought into this matter related to medicine refinement, right? If these medicinal herbs countered each other and were placed together, wouldn't it be a waste of an entire tray of medicinal herbs? Could it be that whenever the Ghost Doctor needed a medicinal herb, she would directly take it from the medicine cabinet, and if she took the wrong one, she would casually throw it into a drawer? With the Ghost Doctor's personality, it seemed like she really would do that. The 2 tables that she had tidied up yesterday were in a mess again after she came out of the secret room. She could predict that in less than 3 days, the medicinal herbs in the drawer would be the same as today after she had painstakingly sorted them out. However, even if she knew this would happen, she still had to brace herself to organize the medicinal herbs. This would also help her to further understand the medicinal effects and shapes of the medicinal herbs. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she started to organize the medicinal herbs one by one. Luckily, she had read through 2 books on the foundation of medicinal pills in the secret room yesterday, and learnt the ability to differentiate medicinal herbs from 100 pill refining. Chapter 396. Yiqing Luo's hands and feet were nimble and her brain was working at full speed. With a single glance, he was able to identify the messy pile of medicinal herbs in a drawer. She sorted these medicinal herbs one by one and then opened another drawer. Yiqing Luo's thoughts were all placed on tidying up the medicine cabinet. He didn't notice that the secret room behind him was slowly opening again. The Ghost Doctor was standing at the door, narrowing his eyes as he watched her tidy up the medicine cabinet. His hands and feet were very nimble, his reaction was not bad, and his memory was also very good. He could accurately identify any medicinal herbs that he had seen before and accurately put the same medicinal herbs together. The Ghost Doctor's expressionless face softened a little, and his gaze was no longer as impatient and cold as before. His foresight wasn't too bad after all. This little girl was a promising young lady. The ghost doctor was a medicine refiner who was crazy about refining pills, and was extremely meticulous about everything related to refining pills. The reason why he accepted Yiqing Luo was because when Yiqing Luo helped him to tidy up the medicinal herbs on the table, he could tell that she had some innate talent in alchemy, which was why he was moved. He hated trouble and was too lazy to tidy up the refining room. Right now, the medicine refining room was already in a mess to the point where one could not bear to look straight at it. Coincidentally, Yiqing Luo barged in. Thus, he had the idea of finding a student who was pleasing to his eyes to help him tidy up the medicine refining room. From the looks of it, although this little girl was a little troublesome, she wasn't annoying. After tidying for about 2 hours, Yiqing Luo had just tidied up the first medicine cabinet. She rubbed her sore arms. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind her. "Alright, it's already noon. Go and eat. Don't be a hindrance here." Ghost Doctor stood expressionlessly behind her as he strode towards the table, not even taking a look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded. She hadn't had a single drop of water for the entire morning and had spent such a long time sorting out the medicinal herbs. She was so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. "After you're done eating, scram back here to continue tidying up." Just as Yiqing Luo walked out of the pill refining room, Ghost Doctor called out coldly from behind. Yiqing Luo responded. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the Ghost Doctor, who had seemed so terrifying and strange yesterday, wasn't so fierce after all. He hated trouble, but he cared about her health. Although his tone was a little fierce, the meaning behind his words was that he was thinking for her sake. Leaving the medicine refinement chamber, Xianxia arrived at the first floor of the Compendium Pavilion, where he met a group of people walking into the Compendium Pavilion. When the two of them faced each other, they both stopped. Their leader was Xuanhuan Lioli. Behind him were 5 girls. They should be the students from Intermediate Profound Class 2. How unlucky. The minute Xuanhuan Lioli saw Yiqing Luo, her originally smiling face instantly turned gloomy. The lady beside her who was holding her arm, also had a face of disgust. "Trash that was allocated to the devil class, what are you doing in the library pavilion? How many books can you read? How many words can you read?" The moment he said this, the other women around him covered their mouths and chuckled. "You don't know this, but this most outstanding student in our freshman training was ambushed by an assassin yesterday, and he fainted on the spot." Xuanhuan Lioli laughed coldly as she raised her voice. During today's training, the 2 instructors felt that she had lost face, so they punished her to the second floor to organize the books. Naturally, the student had heard the news about the assassins. At this moment, the gazes which they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with ridicule and gloating over her misfortune. One must know that ever since Yiqing Luo entered the academy, she was an influential figure. The disciple whom the overlord had personally acknowledged, the mysterious and unfathomable Guiyu, the student whom everyone was fighting over, and had the guts to go against the faculty council. And so on, a series of matters. Chapter 397. However, the news of Yiqing Luo fainting from being frightened by the killers made the students not know whether to laugh or cry. Suddenly they felt that it was reasonable for the academy to arrange Yiqing Luo into the devil class. It was noon and there were quite a number of students who had just finished their lunch and came to the library pavilion to read. There was quite a lot of people. A few female students stood at the entrance, and the scene of them covering their mouths and laughing attracted the attention of the other students. The students who were passing by couldn't help but cast a puzzled gaze over. Yiqing Luo was so hungry that she was lying flat on the ground. The minute she recalled that Ghost Doctor asked her to hurry back, she totally couldn't be bothered with Xuanhuan Lioli. Facing these female students' ridicule, she didn't show any expression at all. Towards those whom she didn't care about, why would she care what others thought of her? She walked past these female students and walked towards the library pavilion's main entrance. Xuanhuan Lioli's expression instantly sunk. At this moment, Yiqing Luo still had the cheek to put on airs in front of her? She even dared to ignore her? She listened to Xuanhuan Fangyi's words and had been bearing the grudge in her heart, waiting for a suitable opportunity to take revenge on Yiqing Luo. But every single time she saw Yiqing Luo, she would be inexplicably annoyed and had the thought of dismembering Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. "Hey, Yiqing Luo, I'm talking to you." Xuanhuan Lioli's expression sunk as she stretched out her arm and blocked Yiqing Luo. Previously she had suffered a loss in Yiqing Luo's hands, and towards Yiqing Luo's strength, Xuanhuan Lioli had some restraining fear. But yesterday Yiqing Luo fainted from being frightened by the killers, successfully made Xuanhuan Lioli dispel her fear towards Yiqing Luo. Waste was waste, unable to make a comeback for the rest of her life. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as a sliver of impatience appeared in between her brows. Scram. She had just settled down for a few days and now she wanted to jump out again? Xuanhuan Liuli's face turned black as her eyes stared wide open, not concealing her disgust towards Yiqing Luo at all. Merely a coward, useless fellow training together with you. I feel that you're throwing my face. She took a look at the few people beside her. Among the female students they always liked to form cliques. Xuanhuan Liuli was the fifth miss of the Xuanhuan family, and her overall ability was very strong. Naturally they were willing to treat Xuanhuan Liuli as their team big sister. He listened to Xuanhuan Liuli's arrangements for everything. On seeing Xuanhuan Liuli's eye signal, a few female students surrounded Yiqing Luo. The surrounding students didn't expect that as they spoke, they would actually start fighting. One by one they put down their books or stopped in their tracks to look over. Get out of here. Suddenly, a loud roar came from the end of the library. With a ferocious look on his face, the librarian pointed at Xuanhuan Liuli and scolded, "This is the library, the most sacred place in the academy. If you don't wish to read, scram out of the library. Don't disturb the other students." The administrator frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo. "And you, get out of here too." The students were frightened by the sudden roar. Their bodies trembled as they quickly turned around and stood in a row, bowing their heads to the administrator. The people in the Heavenly Academy were all crouching tigers and hidden dragons. From the headmaster of the academy and the directors of the various departments to the street cleaners, they could all be masters of the world. Towards this administrator who had stayed in the academy for several decades, he had quite a reputation in the academy. The moment he roared, Xuanhuan Liuli and the other female students immediately lowered their heads and apologized. Whereas Yiqing Luo, who was similarly roared at, had no intention to apologize at all. Chapter 398. Xuanhuan Liuli was standing closest to Yiqing Luo. She was still bowing to the administrator to apologize, but Yiqing Luo actually wanted to take the opportunity to leave? How could there be such a good thing? Yiqing Luo. How dare you? Instantly, Xuanhuan Liuli raised her volume as she pointed towards Yiqing Luo, who had already walked out of the main door. You simply have no respect for your elders. How am I being presumptuous? The one who asked me to leave is the administrator, and if I leave obediently, it would become me having no respect for my elders? Yiqing Luo gave a cold harumph as the words she said made one unable to rebuke her. Xuanhuan Liuli's finger, which was pointing at Yiqing Luo, froze as she was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo's words that she was unable to rebuke her. However, before Xuanhuan Liuli could finish her sentence, she heard the administrator's raging roar. Still quarreling? Do you believe that I will throw you out right now? His words had just ended when the administrator's robust body really bent over to carry Xuanhuan Liuli. Xuanhuan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale as she screamed and retreated backwards. What a joke! No matter what, the administrator was a man, a robust middle-aged man. If she were to be carried by him, wouldn't her chastity be ruined for the rest of her life? Xuanhuan Liuli was in an extremely disheveled state as she stumbled out of the library pavilion. The other female students were afraid that the administrator would vent his anger on them, as all of them kept their mouths shut as they timidly ran out of the library pavilion. Xuanhuan Liuli's heart was crying out in frustration. It was currently the afternoon break time and there were many students entering and exiting the library pavilion. Her current disheveled state fell into many students' eyes. She wondered how the rumors would turn out to be. The surrounding gazes were like needles as they fiercely pierced onto Xuanhuan Liuli. Liuli, are you alright? The female students surrounded Xuanhuan Liuli. But on seeing her pale face and a pair of venomous and sinister glint in her eyes, they all trembled. He subconsciously retracted his hand. And this tremble, this withdrawal of hand, completely agitated Xuanhuan Liuli. Who do you think you are? How dare you mock me? Xuanhuan Liuli didn't even think as she flung away the female student who was holding on to her and gave a tight slap on her face. That female student mysteriously suffered a slap as she fell onto the ground. Xuanhuan Liuli's pretty face was cold and twisted. She felt that these female classmates who usually fawned over her, did not know how to speak up for her and did not know how to help her at a critical moment. How dare he laugh at her in his heart? That's right, ridicule. Xuanhuan Liuli thought that these female students were trembling because they were trying to hold back their laughter. He retracted his hand, thinking that she was embarrassed. He's sick. Yiqing Luo cast a sidelong glance at her. In her eyes, Xuanhuan Liuli was a lunatic with a serious princess syndrome. Living in his own world forever, he wouldn't listen to what others said. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste her saliva and turned around to leave. Behind her, Xuanhuan Liuli seemed as though she had gone mad, as she dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. Her expression was malevolent as her eyes, which made one feel chilly, stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, aren't you amazing? Do you dare to fight me in this year's interclass competition? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding students exclaimed in surprise. Interclass competition? This was the regulated competition which was held once a year in the Heavenly Academy. It was also the only chance for all the students to change classes and climb to a higher class. Over the years, there were only 3 classes which took part in the interclass competition, namely low, intermediate and high. Class of God was high above and there was no room for them to rise. They had never participated in this kind of competition. Chapter 399. This kind of interclass competition was considered as a team competition. Xuanhuan Li's words were obviously representing the intermediate profound class 2 to issue a challenge to devil class. This was simply bullying intolerably. Too cunning. Xuanhuan Li knew that if she were to fight with Yiqing Luo alone, she would absolutely not be able to win. But if it was the intermediate profound class 2 against devil class, then the result would be different. Devil class was a bunch of trash and couldn't even be shown in public. Even if Yiqing Luo was supporting them alone, but after all, it was difficult to fight against 4 people. Could she go against the entire intermediate profound class 2 alone? It could be said that Xuanhuan Li had issued this challenge to Yiqing Luo in front of so many students. Although it was a little sinister, but it was the most appropriate choice. If Yiqing Luo were to reject it in this academy, the news that she had fainted from being frightened by the killer and didn't dare to take part in the interclass competition, etc., her reputation in the academy would be ruined. If Yiqing Luo agreed to it, there was no need to wait for the competition. This result was already very obvious. Devil class would lose without a doubt. By then Xuanhuan Li would have another reason to humiliate Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo, who heard Xuanhuan Li's provocation, kept silent. She narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly, as she estimated the overall ability of devil class. This interclass competition would only be held in 8 months' time. 8 months' time. She could make use of this opportunity to let devil class wash away the name of trash that they had been crowned with. If they were able to get first place in one fell swoop and become a class that surpassed the high profound class, then devil class's hard work these few years would be repaid. She understood that devil class's students had been working hard to improve themselves, to make themselves stronger, to prove to those people that they were absolutely not trash. And the interclass competition was the only chance for devil class's students to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat only. Yiqing Luo wasn't clear. To what extent did Long Yunzhan intend to train these students to, before they could completely reveal their ability? Because of this, facing Xuanhuan Li's challenge, Yiqing Luo was still hesitant. After all, she wasn't sure what devil class's students were thinking. She couldn't represent devil class to accept this challenge just because of her own face. Xuanhuan Li, do you have to be so cheap? In the crowd, a slender figure suddenly walked out. It was Lu Xiaoyu with one hand on her waist and the other pointing at Xuanhuan Li. Who do you think you are? On what basis do you represent the entire intermediate profound class 2 to issue a challenge to devil class? Do you think that the students of class 2 are as despicable, shameless, and filthy as you? Lu Xiaoyu spat out a barrage of reprimands like a cannonball. Lu Xiaoyu had just ended her training and hadn't even had the time to wash up and change into a clean set of clothes when she heard the students talking about Yiqing Luo and Xuanhuan Li having a conflict in the library pavilion. She didn't even bother to change her clothes and directly rushed over. Coincidentally, she heard Xuanhuan Li challenging Yiqing Luo. Xuanhuan Li was scolded so harshly that her originally smug face was now flushed red. That sense of shame once again welled up in his heart. If student Yi has no objections, I, the class monitor of Intermediate Profound Class 2, represent Intermediate Profound Class 2 to issue a challenge to Devil Class during the interclass competition. From the crowd, a tall and slender young man with regular features walked out. His eyes and brows exuded a heroic spirit. Chapter 400. Xie Class Monitor. Lu Xiaoyu stared at that young man as her bright eyes widened. Why are you following Xuanhuan Li's blind jeering? Xuanhuan Li's eyes lit up. On seeing that she had a backer, she immediately smiled and looked at the man beside her. Xie Class Monitor. This call was called as tender as water. Xie Yan's smile didn't diminish as he put on a serious face. This is not blind jeering. For so many years, the interclass competition has always been between the low, intermediate and high classes. Although Devil classes students are slightly lacking in innate talent, but they are after all Heavenly Academy students. This kind of big event, Devil class should indeed take part in it. If you take part, who knows, there might be 1 or 2 students who will be able to stand out and enter the low profound class. That would be a new start in your life. If you don't take part, then you won't even have the chance. Wouldn't you have wasted a year's time? Student Xuanhuan has indeed raised an interesting suggestion. If student Yi doesn't mind, can we have a battle? Saying that, the smile on his lips added some gentleness. Looking at Yi Qingluo's eyes, it was also filled with a polite smile. Yi Qingluo frowned. This young man, as compared to Xuanhuan Luli, was even harder to deal with. Every word and sentence was actually reasonable. Yi Qingluo couldn't find any fault to refute. Originally Xuanhuan Luli's challenge, which came up with no rhyme or reason, portrayed the intermediate profound class 2 as a class that bullied the weak, sinister and cunning. But Xie Yan's words pushed the intermediate profound class 2 to a higher platform. This was the charm of words. It was obviously the same meaning, but when different people said it, the resulting effect was totally different. At this moment, those students who were originally ridiculing Xuanhuan Luli for bullying the weak and fearing the strong, representing the intermediate profound class 2 to play Devil class for no reason, all nodded their heads, feeling that what Xie Yan said was very reasonable. And these words also blocked Yi Qingluo's path of retreat. If she agreed, intermediate profound class 2 would gain a good reputation. Even if they defeated Devil class badly, that would also be a good reputation. If she didn't agree, there might be people who scolded Yi Qingluo for not knowing what's good for her. Just agree. You make it sound like the students of Devil class are afraid. In the crowd, a low voice rang out. That voice was very familiar. Yi Qingluo raised her head and saw Qiao Jin sandwiched in the crowd, acting as one of the spectators. His appearance was unremarkable, and he deliberately restrained his aura. He did not stand out in the crowd. The minute Qiao Jin opened his mouth, the surrounding students all started to cheer, making Yi Qingluo agree to it. Everyone had the intention to watch the show. After all, the students of the Devil class had already disappeared for a few years. The only 2 known students were Yi Qingluo and Mo Yuing. Everyone was also very curious. After so many years, just how much trash had been stored in that place that housed all the trash in the academy. Since Qiao Jin had spoken up at this moment, he must have represented the opinion of the Devil class. Immediately Yi Qingluo had no more worries. Her lips curled into a cold smile, her charming eyes flashed a long and narrow cold arc, slightly raised. Just like what class monitor Xie said, this is an opportunity for the Devil class, we cannot waste a year's time. Xie Yan laughed, student Yi is really smart. But I have a request. Yi Qingluo restrained the sharp glint in her eyes as she slowly walked towards Xie Yan. If class monitor Xie has the ability to convince the elders' quarters, then I will represent Devil class to accept your challenge. What request? Xie Yan's brows rose, it was related to the elders' quarters. Chapter 401. What the? You're making it seem as though class monitor Xie Yan is begging Devil class to join in. Talk about conditions? What rights does Devil class have to talk about conditions? If you want to join, then join, forget it if you don't. On what basis are you talking about conditions? The surrounding students started to berate Yi Qingluo with righteous indignation. A waste class really treated themselves as treasure? And agreed to their conditions? Wishful thinking. What is your condition? Xie Yan asked with interest. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes as she replied calmly, Devil class's freedom. Freedom? Xie Yan's brows creased in puzzlement, as though he didn't understand what Yi Qingluo meant. I want Devil class's students to have the freedom to leave or stay. Other than the academy's restricted areas, Devil class's students have the right to go anywhere in the Heavenly Academy. This request, if the elders agreed to it. During the interclass competition, even if Devil class's students performed outstandingly, the academy had no right to transfer them to other classes. Moreover, in the future, other than those restricted areas, they would be able to move freely. To announce Devil class's students to the public, Yi Qingluo naturally had to think of a way out for them. Xie Yan muttered to himself for a moment. This request in fact wasn't too difficult. He could roughly guess the reason why Yi Qingluo raised this request. Those people in Devil class were all waste, their innate talents were extremely bad and they had no actual combat experience at all. They had been hiding in the academy like a mouse hiding for several years, just because they were afraid of being bullied by other students. If they were to take part in the interclass competition, these wastes would definitely appear in front of everyone's eyes. If they didn't have this freedom, these students would definitely be isolated and bullied by the other class's students. He couldn't tell that this new student's thoughts were so meticulous. Xianyan recalled his brother instructing him that he must definitely let Yiqing Luo and Devil class take part in the interclass competition 8 months later. He restrained the radiance in his eyes as he smiled faintly. This request, I can raise it up to the elders. The students were in an uproar. Xianyan actually agreed to it? As for the other classes' requests, that will be up to them. Xianyan spread out his hands with a helpless look, waiting for your answer. Yiqing Luo couldn't care less if he had any ideas or not. After throwing this sentence down, she squeezed out of the crowd and headed towards the direction of the canteen. Xianyan didn't obstruct her as he squinted his eyes, gazing at Yiqing Luo's departing figure. A treacherous luster faintly appeared. Beside him, Xuanhuan Lioli looked around with her beautiful eyes, carefully grabbing Xianyan's arm. Class Monitor Xia, thank you for helping me. If it wasn't for you, I would have been humiliated by her again. However, before he could even grasp it firmly, Xianyan had already retracted his hand. Student Xuanhuan, as a student of the intermediate profound class, to be humiliated by a student of the devil class, do you think you have the qualifications to look down on the devil class? Xianyan still had a warm smile on his face, but the words that came out of his mouth were extremely ear-piercing. Xuanhuan Lioli was instantly stunned, and a trace of astonishment flashed past her face. Xianyan appeared in front of everyone to help her out of trouble. Could it not be because he was helping her? Wasn't it because he was interested in her? She blinked as she stared at Xianyan's handsome face, wondering if she had heard wrongly. But Xianyan's deep and impolite words continued to enter her ears. If you have the time to be jealous and bully your classmates, why not raise your own ability? A vase that only looks good will be eliminated sooner or later. Chapter 402. What was Xianyan's identity? Yiqing Luo didn't know and didn't delve into it. But she was very clear that Xianyan had agreed to her condition, which meant that he had the confidence to make the elders' quarters and the other class monitors to agree to it. Looked like the interclass competition 8 months later, Devil class was definitely going to take part in it. She went to the cafeteria to buy some food and sat at the corner table. When the students saw her, they started pointing and gossiping. Yiqing Luo pretended not to see them as she finished her food on her own. At least his stomach was saved. She kept the cutlery and was about to get up when she saw Xuanhuan Fangyi walking over. That rather handsome face frowned tightly. Student Yi, do you really intend to lead Devil class to take part in the interclass competition 8 months later? Yiqing Luo's brows rose. This news spread really quickly. In just a meal's time, it had already spread to the entire courtyard. Are you crazy? What kind of place is Devil class? If you lead Devil class to take part, wouldn't it be pushing Devil class to eternal damnation? Xuanhuan Fangyi's face was gloomy as he put on a concerned look towards Yiqing Luo. The interclass competition is an extremely cruel competition. Although it won't harm the other party's life, but there's a possibility of crippling them. Xianyan, that fox is obviously scheming against you. When he said the last sentence, he lowered his voice to a volume that only the two of them could hear. Apparently, he was afraid that the topic of him talking about Xianyan would be spread out by others. However, while Xuanhuan Fangyi was worried, like an ant on a hot pan, the young lady in front of him raised her slender brows as a ridiculing arc flashed past her slender eyes. So? You. Xuanhuan Fangyi was instantly at a loss for words. He had said so much, and this was the reaction she gave him? Could it be that she really wanted Devil class to take part in the interclass competition? It wasn't that he was afraid of Devil class or afraid of Yiqing Luo. But he wanted to make use of this opportunity to show concern for Yiqing Luo. After all, Yiqing Luo's own ability was something that he understood better than Xuanhuan Lioli. If he was able to woo this young lady who had been raised in her boudoir, based on Yiqing Luo's relationship with so many high and mighty people, wouldn't they all become his chess pieces? But he had not expected that Yiqing Luo totally didn't fall for his tricks. Xianyan is obviously trying to make fun of the Devil class. I believe in your ability, but the other students, I'm afraid they will fall into the evil hands of the intermediate profound class. Xuanhuan Fangyi frowned and spoke again. This time his concern was even more obvious. I just don't want to see you get hurt. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. This pair of brother and sister were truly blood-related. One or two disgusting people in such a simple way. What does it have to do with you? Yiqing Luo squinted her cold eyes as her lips curled disapprovingly. Firstly, Devil class isn't led by me, but if the brothers in Devil class are willing to take part, I will follow along. Secondly, before the Devil class can participate, class monitor Xia must be able to fulfill the requirements that I have raised. Thirdly, since you look down on the Devil class, don't show up in front of me after all. I'm also a student of the Devil class. Xuanhuan Fangyi kept saying that he didn't want Yiqing Luo to get hurt and so on. His words were filled with concern. But these words, weren't they looking down on Devil class from the bottom of his heart? Since he looked down on them, what was the point of putting on airs in front of her? Yiqing Luo originally didn't want to waste her saliva on Xuanhuan Fangyi. But upon thinking that she would be harassed by others because of this matter, she might as well say everything out at once. Chapter 403. Student Yi, my kind advice is for your own good. If you insist on seeking death, then go ahead. Xuanhuan Fangyi had always thought of himself as a romantic and elegant man. Wherever he went, he would receive the shy glances of women. It was rare for him to get close to a woman, but he was humiliated like this. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. With an ashen face, he flicked his sleeves and left. Yiqing Luo picked up the tray, and after washing the bowls and chopsticks, she placed it on the wooden rack by the side and turned around to leave. He had wasted quite a lot of time on this pair of siblings. Remembering that the ghost doctor had told him to return to the medicine refining room earlier, he quickened his pace and took a shortcut towards the library. The path from the cafeteria to the library was between the male and female dormitories. Because the dormitory management was very strict, no male students were allowed to climb over the walls of the female dormitory. This path was also blocked because many male students wanted to go to the female dormitory, but the dormitory management broke their legs, causing this path to be blocked. Yiqing Luo's figure was petite and her steps were light. Even if she was blocked, it wasn't too strenuous for her to walk. She crossed the small path and was about to take the main road to the library when a strong arm suddenly wrapped around her slender waist from behind. The elegant scent of sandalwood instantly filled her nostrils. The man's broad chest was tightly pressed against her soft back. That scorching temperature, through her clothes, seemed as though it was going to burn Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened as her little hand held onto the large palm on her waist. You're really heartless. You've really thrown me to the back of your mind. The man's voice resounded in her ears. His tone was filled with displeasure. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled. Hearing his grumbling words, a sense of guilt arose in her heart. Ever since she was sent to the library pavilion as a punishment and met the ghost doctor, there were too many things happening and she indeed did not have the time to care about Diamo Xian. He even stayed in Long Yunzhan's spiritual energy treasure land for an entire night. Diamo Xian would come to her dormitory every night and hug her to sleep together. But yesterday she was assassinated and her dormitory was destroyed. She broke the rules again. How anxious would Diamo Xian be when he knew that she had suffered a serious internal injury? Yiqing Luo put herself in Diamo Xian's shoes and she could empathize with that kind of anxiety. It was no wonder that Diamo Xian could not keep his composure and started to grumble at her in broad daylight. I'm sorry, Xian. Yiqing Luo turned around in Diamo Xian's arms and faced him. Two small hands circled around Diamo Xian's waist. I've made you worry. The moment she raised her eyes, she met with Diamo Xian's eyes. Those blood veins were like an enchanting blossoming flower. The peach blossoms glistened like a pool of spring water, flickering with flowing light. His obsidian black eyes reflected Yiqing Luo's countenance. His hair was slightly messy. It was obvious that he had not taken care of it for a long time. His brows were slightly furrowed, filled with deep worry. This one look made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard as it trembled fiercely. Her fair little hands trembled as she caressed Diamo Xian's face. His smooth chin already had some stubble which was slightly prickly to the touch. His peerless face still had his usual devilish charm, but it was hard to hide his haggardness. Especially since his skin was too fair, the green shadow at the corner of his eyes was even more obvious. Now that you know you're sorry, will you still dare to mess around like this in future? Diamo Xian held Yiqing Luo's hand. His tone was like a child's grumbling, but his eyes were filled with joy from seeing Yiqing Luo safe and sound. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she rubbed her face against his chest. Her cheeks were burning hot and her ears were filled with an extremely rhythmic heartbeat, which made her feel indescribably at ease. Chapter 404. How dare he? To make the high and mighty Di Zun worry about him like this. He felt sorry for her and she also felt sorry for him. Last night you didn't sleep at all. Yiqing Luo's voice was gentle, revealing a tinge of heartache. Diamo Xian lowered his head slightly as he placed his chin on her neck, sniffing the lady's fragrance. That restless heart in his heart slowly calmed down. His girl had met with the killers yesterday. At that critical moment he could only stand at the top of the tall building and watch. He wanted to show himself to save Yiqing Luo, to become her strongest support when she was in danger. But he couldn't. He loved Yiqing Luo, but at the same time, he was the Imperial Palace's palace lord, shouldering the Imperial Palace's mission. If he were to show himself now, it would definitely attract the Academy's attention. All of his plans would fail. Hence he attracted Long Yunzhan. But he had not expected that after Qi exhausted the sacred beast's energy to allow Long Yunzhan to transform into a dragon, in order to charge into the array barrier, it forced out the dragon's energy. It could be seen that in Long Yunzhan's heart, Yiqing Luo had already occupied a very important position. But it was because of yesterday's killer incident which made Diamo Xian even more determined to let Yiqing Luo grow up on her own. He finally understood why Yiqing Luo wanted to walk side by side with him, and not let him protect her under her wings. Because Yiqing Luo wasn't willing to be his burden. She wanted to be his assistant, an assistant who could help him. His identity meant that he had too much helplessness. He had no way to stay by Yiqing Luo's side all the time. And his identity also meant that the people around him would meet with many unknown dangers because of him. He was actually very clear that if Long Yunzhan wasn't able to transform into a dragon and kill those killers easily, he would absolutely take the risk of being discovered to save Yiqing Luo. The degree of care he had for Yiqing Luo had exceeded his imagination. Diamo Xian concealed the deep meaning in his eyes as his arms tightened. Promise me, don't let yourself be in a dangerous situation in future. Yiqing Luo smiled as the smile on her lips deepened. I will protect myself well. She told Diamo Xian about how she met the ghost doctor in the library pavilion, then being chased by assassins and finally meeting the blue dragon. The academy has arranged a new dormitory for us. I reckon that we'll only be able to move in after we return to the academy during the holidays. Tonight I'll stay in the spiritual Qi treasure land to cultivate. I reckon that when I wake up tomorrow my internal injuries should be completely healed. Yiqing Luo explained where she went last night. Find a place and have a good rest for 2 days. We'll meet again when we return to Three Springs sect. Chasing me away just like that? Diamo Xian rubbed his head against her neck. That scorching breath blew on her earlobe from time to time. Yiqing Luo endured the numbing feeling as her little hand clutched the robes around his waist tightly. Ah Xian, I can't bear to part with you, but what I should do now is to work hard to raise my own strength. I don't want you to worry about me. Silly girl. Diamo Xian sighed softly as his palm covered Yiqing Luo's head, pulling the both of them apart. He lowered his eyes and stared into the woman's enchanting eyes as he gently kissed her on the lips. No matter how powerful you become, I will always worry about you. How could he not be worried? But no matter how worried he was, Diamo Xian couldn't do something like intentionally distancing himself from her just to prevent her from getting hurt. He couldn't bear to, and he couldn't do it. This sweet kiss was gentle and lingering, deeply hooking Yiqing Luo. Chapter 405. By the time Yiqing Luo returned to the pill refining room, it was already 2 hours later. The ghost doctor's originally dark and gloomy face was now even darker. A pair of cold eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. You took so long just to have a meal? Something happened and delayed me. Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she gave a low laugh. Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph as his face turned gloomy, troublesome. Yiqing Luo gave a few dry laughs. Ghost Doctor saw her look and couldn't be bothered to scold her as he flicked his sleeves and entered the pill refining secret room again. Following that, Yiqing Luo automatically started to tidy up the other medicine cabinet. With the experience of tidying up in the morning, the second medicine cabinet was much easier to tidy up. After she had tidied up the medicinal herbs and names in the 2 medicine cabinets, these medicinal herbs' shapes and effects were all recorded in Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo dusted her hands as she scanned the medicine cabinet from top to bottom to ensure that she didn't miss out on any drawer. She turned back and tidied up the 2 messy wooden tables. Ghost Doctor didn't return. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings, and on seeing the messy bookshelves, she automatically tidied up the bookshelves. She remembered that the last time she bumped into this place, she accidentally opened the pill refining secret room. This time she paid attention and carefully avoided the mechanism. These books which Ghost Doctor had stored were all related to pill refining. There were records of various medicinal herbs' geographical locations, and there were records and legends regarding the origins of the medicinal herbs. As she continued to tidy up, there were quite a number of rare medicinal pill formulas. Yiqing Luo flipped through it and even saw a few familiar formulas. These were the formulas which she had seen from the 100-pill refining book. The 100-pill refining book was something which Old Man Song had hidden for a very, very long time. Even if it wasn't a few thousand years old, it would at least be a few hundred years old. If this were to be leaked out, it would definitely cause a bloodbath. There were quite a number of formulas in these books which belonged to Ghost Doctor. It showed how rare and precious these books were. Yiqing Luo tidied up as she flipped through these books. If there was something which she was interested in, she would spend more time and effort to memorize it all. Time passed slowly, one breath at a time. Yiqing Luo had already tidied up to the last shelf. Just as he was about to move a stool to step on it, he heard a few ladies' ridiculing laughter coming from outside the pill refining room. Didn't they say that Yiqing Luo had been punished to the second story to clean up? Why don't I see him? Could it be that he secretly ran away? If you run, you'll be going against the instructor's orders. Let's split up and look for him. If we can't find him, we'll inform Instructor He and Instructor Chu. Soon after, the sound of several footsteps could be heard walking back and forth. The soundproofing of the medicine refining room had been designed to allow the Ghost Doctor to refine medicine in peace. Moreover, the Ghost Doctor had been afraid of trouble, and because of that, it had been designed very well. By right, under the circumstances of the pill refining room being sealed, Yiqing Luo shouldn't be able to hear the discussions outside. It was just that. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was going on. Ever since she came out from the profound Qi treasure land this morning, her perception and acuity seemed to have increased by quite a bit. Separated by the thick walls, the footsteps and discussions of the students outside could be heard clearly in his ears. Obviously, these people were here to see her make a fool of herself. Yiqing Luo was a little speechless. Was she really so hated? It was just a punishment of cleaning the library pavilion. In the afternoon, Xuanhuan Lioli had chided her, and now she had to be chided by others. Chapter 406. Yiqing Luo put down the book in her hands and silently walked to the side of the door as she opened a small gap. She saw a few female students walking around outside the library pavilion, pushing open one reading room after another as they searched for Yiqing Luo. They didn't dare to call out loudly, afraid that the administrator would be called over. All of them called out Yiqing Luo's name softly. Yiqing Luo's brows twitched. Why did she have a feeling of soul calling? It looked like if these people didn't find her, they probably wouldn't let this matter rest. Damn it. They were all people who had too much time on their hands. They didn't want to improve themselves, but her time was very precious. Suppressing the raging primitive energy in her heart, Yiqing Luo shut her eyes as she silently recited the incantation and her figure suddenly swayed. In a blink of an eye, she disappeared from the pill refining room. The entrance of the pill refining secret passage split open and Ghost Doctor walked out with a gloomy face. Before he could open his mouth to berate Yiqing Luo for creating trouble again, he saw Yiqing Luo's figure, as though it had blended into the air, disappearing without a trace. Little by little, a trace of astonishment appeared on his wrinkled face. He immediately congealed his senses, sensing Yiqing Luo's position. In the reading room not too far away, he sensed Yiqing Luo's weak presence and the astonishment in his eyes grew by several degrees. In an instant, she silently shifted her position. Wasn't this the legendary secret method? This freshman, how was she able to display such a secret method? In the reading room, Yiqing Luo pretended to clean up as she patted the books on the bookshelf, arranging them properly one by one. Suddenly, the reading room's door was opened by someone. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, recognizing her at one glance. High profound classes student, Yan Xiaoyi's half-sister with extremely high innate talent, Yan Zhenfei. She's here. Yiqing Luo is here. The minute Yan Zhenfei saw Yiqing Luo, she immediately stuck her head out and shouted. A few hurried footsteps were heard. 3 female students blocked the reading room's door. This lineup. Yiqing Luo put down the book in her hands, turned around and smiled. I know you all worship me and are so agitated to see me. Are you all here to ask for my autograph? Bah. Yan Zhenfei spat and turned to hug the arm of the female student behind her. Sister Xuanhuan, look at her. She's been punished for 2 days in a row. Her reputation is ruined, but she still doesn't know it. Lu Xuelan's beautiful eyes squinted slightly, her expression was filled with pride as she examined Yiqing Luo. It was undeniable that Yiqing Luo's looks were too stunning. Coupled with her extremely lazy attitude as if she didn't care about anything, it added a bit of charm to her. Moreover, the temperament that she exuded was so unruly and unrestrained, yet at ease and at ease. Indeed, she had the capital to make people unable to shift their gazes away from her. Lu Xuelan hated Yiqing Luo's beauty, but at the same time, Yiqing Luo's existence was beneficial to her. No one was willing to be born under someone else. It was the same for her. In terms of appearance, talent, and profound rank, she was no worse than Lu Shuiyu. Just because Lu Shuiyu was born a year earlier than her, she had to become Lu Shuiyu's foil. Usually, she and Lu Shuiyu had a deep sisterly relationship, running errands for Lu Shuiyu everywhere. Lu Xuelan had enough of these things. Hoping and waiting, finally Yiqing Luo's appearance. She didn't like Yiqing Luo, but as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If she was able to rope in Yiqing Luo and completely make Lu Shuiyu step down, then the position of vice president would be hers. Chapter 407. Yan Zhenfei's and the other female students' expressions changed instantly. What happened to finding trouble? How did it become helping Yiqing Luo? Due to Lu Xuelan's status, the both of them had their doubts, but they didn't dare to say a single word. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she laughed lightly. Help me? Acting vice president is so kind. That's natural. As the faculty council's vice president, I naturally have to be considerate of students. This is the faculty council's aim. Lu Xuelan apparently didn't hear the ridicule in Yiqing Luo's words and thought that she was praising herself as a smile appeared on her face. Yiqing Luo laughed silently in her heart. This Lu Xuelan was really not suitable to stand on such a high ground. Not even a third of her sisters. At least Lu Shuiyu knew how to conceal her own thoughts, and other than Si Yenmu's matters, her brain spun extremely quickly. If this Lu Xuelan really became the vice president of the faculty council, she would probably be scolded by Si Yenmu to the point of being drenched with dog's blood. Just one look at Lu Xuelan and Yiqing Luo knew what she was planning. Acting vice president. Yan Zhenfei's brows creased slightly as she gently tugged Lu Xuelan's sleeve. She's not praising. Shut up. Lu Xuelan berated coldly as her expression sunk. Aren't you going to help student Yi clean the library pavilion? Yan Zhenfei lowered her eyelids as she didn't dare to say another word. She pulled the female student next to her into the reading room to help Yiqing Luo tidy up. Everything in the reading room had been tidied up by Qiao Jin and the rest yesterday, so they didn't need their help at all. Moreover, Lu Xuelan didn't have any good intentions. No need. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped the both of them. I don't need any help. If there's nothing, please leave and don't disturb me. She had tried her best to make her tone gentle and polite. But the three of them apparently didn't think so. Yan Zhenfei was originally suppressing a ball of fire in her heart because of Lu Xuelan's command, and without thinking, she pointed at Yiqing Luo and rebuked. Don't be unappreciative. Acting vice president asked us to help you because he thinks highly of you. What right do you have to reject him? That's right, a student from the devil class with such a notorious reputation. How dare he act so arrogantly? Another female student was also displeased. They were all high profound class students and had always been used to being high and mighty. Since when was it the turn of a devil class student to point fingers? A bright red handprint appeared on Yan Zhenfei's face. She screamed in pain and covered her face. Her cheeks were swollen. She stared at Yiqing Luo but realized that Yiqing Luo was standing at the same spot, as though she had not moved at all. But Yiqing Luo raised her fair little hand and gently stroked it, totally indicating that this slap was from her. You're really thick-skinned, it hurts my hand. Yiqing Luo looked like she was hit and sighed, my poor little hand, sigh. Yan Zhenfei's eyes were red. This slap had almost caused her teeth to fall out. It was so painful that when she moved her facial muscles slightly, she felt a tearing pain. Yiqing Luo totally didn't bother about Yan Zhenfei's anger as she slowly turned her head and looked at the female student on the side. The female student subconsciously covered her face filled with horror. How on earth did Yiqing Luo's slap land on her? They totally didn't see Yiqing Luo moving at all. Yiqing Luo. Lu Xuelan's expression wasn't too good as her forced smile froze on her face. Although Yiqing Luo's slap landed on Yan Zhenfei's face. Chapter 408. Yiqing Luo sneered, I don't have a good temper, don't come and provoke me if you don't have the ability, otherwise I'll beat up whoever comes. Lu Xuelan narrowed her eyes as her eerie gaze sized up Yiqing Luo's hand. 2 days ago, she had heard Yi Qingjian mention that Yi Qingluo was the one who trained the intruders in the forest. She had just become the acting vice president, and such a huge incident had already happened. If the news spread to the elder quarters, Elder Yun Xiang would not be the only one to suffer, she would as well. Yesterday there was the matter of an outside assassin trying to assassinate Yi Qingluo, causing the academy's students to be on tenterhooks as they started to question the academy's safety. There were even some students from the high profound class who didn't keep their mouths shut and revealed the trespassers. They were all guessing if the intruders that day were these assassins. In this time of panic, the students placed their hopes on the faculty council. Lu Xuelan was also very anxious. If the intruders were killers, then those intruders absolutely had nothing to do with Yi Qingluo. Especially when they heard Xuanhuan Fangyi mention that when they tested Yi Qingluo obviously didn't seem to have suffered any internal injury, and even gave Yi Qingjian a good thrashing. Today she heard that Yi Qingluo had been punished by the instructors, and had agreed with Intermediate Profound Class 2's class monitor, Xie Yin, that Devil class would join in the interclass competition 8 months later. He became even more suspicious. Under Yan Zhenfei's invitation, Lu Xuelan decided to come to the library to take a look. To test if Yi Qingluo was injured and at the same time, to rope Yi Qingluo in to get rid of Lu Xueyu completely. What Lu Xuelan had not expected was that Yi Qingluo totally didn't fall for her tricks. Yi Qingluo, you've offended so many people, I'd like to see what other backing you have and how long you can stay in the Heavenly Academy. Lu Xuelan's beautiful eyes were gloomy as she stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. Since they couldn't be allies, they were enemies. Anyway, Yi Qingluo and Lu Xueyu's relationship was like fire and water, so she wasn't worried that Yi Qingluo would join hands with Lu Xueyu. Lu Xuelan snorted coldly. Just when she was about to leave, she heard the administrator's loud voice coming from the second floor. Students of the high profound class, just read your books, don't keep yelling. If you don't want to read, then scram. As he spoke, the administrator walked over. On seeing Yi Qingluo, that incomparably fierce face revealed anger. It's you again. What are you doing in the library all day long? Seeing the administrator appear, a cunning look flashed across Yan Zhenfei's eyes. The hostility between her brows immediately disappeared, and she put on a pitiful look. She covered her face and sobbed softly, "Administrator, we just came here to look for some cultivation books to read. Classmate Yi beat me up without any explanation. Vice President Dai and classmate Fong were just standing up for me, so their voices were a little louder." Hearing Yan Zhenfei's words and seeing the handprint on her face, the administrator's face darkened. He directly stretched out his hand towards Yi Qingluo as he tugged her collar. "A student like you, my library pavilion doesn't welcome you. Making trouble all day long, get out of here. I'll talk to your instructor later and ask him not to throw people into the library when he punishes you." But just as his hand was about to grab Yi Qingluo's collar, a white shadow flashed past. The administrator hadn't managed to react in time when his wrist instantly turned numb. He clutched his arm and didn't make any sound, but his face was filled with agony. It was so painful that his face turned pale as he broke out in cold sweat. He clenched his teeth, enduring the pain as he looked at the thing which had struck his wrist. A white porcelain bottle fell onto the floor as it shook slightly. That was a porcelain bottle which stored pills. This porcelain bottle. Why did it look a little like... Chapter 409. The door of the alchemy room, which had always been tightly shut, was now half open. The dazzling luminous pearl cast a long shadow. Ghost Doctor was filled with a vicious aura as he stood at the entrance with a gloomy expression, his gaze staring eerily in the direction of Yi Qingluo and the others. The administrator lowered his head in fear. "Lord Ghost Doctor." The 3 female students beside him had been in the academy for many years, so they had naturally heard of the rumors about the Ghost Doctor. They also knew that the medicine refining room was a forbidden area on the second floor of the library. Whether it was the high profound class or the class of gods, no one was allowed to step into the forbidden area. Because of this, no one had ever seen the Ghost Doctor herself. When he heard the administrators shout, his eyes immediately widened. How lucky were they today to actually meet the elusive Ghost Doctor? Lu Xuelan was the first to react. She hurriedly dragged the 2 female students behind her and lowered her head towards the Ghost Doctor. "Lord Ghost Doctor." The Ghost Doctor's face was dark and cold. Her gaze was like a sharp knife as she stared coldly at the administrator. The administrator felt goosebumps all over his body as he broke out in a cold sweat. Lord Ghost Doctor, I'm really sorry. I've let a few ignorant students disturb your refinement. I'll chase them out right now." The administrator thought that the ghost doctor's rage was entirely because these students had interrupted his concoction. Enduring the sharp pain in his wrist, he grabbed another student with each hand and walked out. But when his hand stretched out towards Yiqing Luo once again, Ghost Doctor's porcelain bottle struck his wrist once again. It was precisely in the same position. This time it was so painful that the manager cried out on the spot. He clutched his wrist and looked at the Ghost Doctor with a face full of fear and confusion. When Lu Shuilan and the others saw this, they did not dare to make a sound. They lowered their heads, hoping that their presence would be reduced to the minimum. "Come here." The Ghost Doctor's voice was ice cold, his gaze cold. The administrator's sturdy body suddenly trembled. The sharp pain in his arm caused his face to contort in pain. Hearing the Ghost Doctor's words, no matter how scared he was, he didn't dare to retort. Lifting his feet, he walked towards the Ghost Doctor. But a slender figure was even faster than him and walked in front of him. Yiqing Luo's footsteps were light and graceful, as though there wasn't a single bit of fear or terror, nor did she tremble from the powerful pressure that Ghost Doctor had unleashed. She walked straight towards the Ghost Doctor, openly and openly. "Hey, get back here." That was the Ghost Doctor. If you offend the Ghost Doctor, even if you die 10 times, it won't be enough to compensate. The manager's face instantly turned pale. He had been a librarian in the academy for decades and had always been in charge of the library. Naturally, he knew the Ghost Doctor's temper and personality. He hated trouble and didn't think about the academy at all. There was once a student who kept pestering him to learn the skills of refining medicine, but was beaten out by the Ghost Doctor with a single palm strike. That student was seriously injured and had to leave the academy. Later on, it was said that he had completely become a cripple. However, the one who made the move was the Ghost Doctor. That student's family did not dare to cause trouble for the academy. Student Yi. The administrator saw Yiqing Luo walking towards Ghost Doctor's direction in a daze. He endured the pain in his wrist as he dashed forward, trying to pull Yiqing Luo back. Although he didn't have any good impression of Yiqing Luo, but she was after all a student of the academy, and as a senior figure in the academy, he wasn't willing to see any student getting hurt. But the scene in front of him caused the administrator to suddenly stop in his tracks. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. He saw Yiqing Luo walking in front of Ghost Doctor and nodding her head slightly at him. Senior Ghost Doctor. Chapter 410. The administrator and the 3 female students behind him were all stunned. Especially the administrator. His mouth was agape as his face was filled with disbelief. Had he developed an auditory hallucination, developing hallucinations? Sir Ghost Doctor actually didn't slap that student out? He actually used such an amiable tone to speak to that student? If Yiqing Luo knew the administrator's inner thoughts, she would probably ridicule endlessly. Damn it. This is called amiable? This fiendish look as though I owe him 1,800,000 coins, this is also called amiable? However, in the administrator's eyes, he was used to seeing how Ghost Doctor ruthlessly slapped one after another. Ghost Doctor didn't take any action and only said a few words, which was already considered as the most amiable. Who asked my disciple to scram out? Ghost Doctor's vision shifted away from Yiqing Luo, locking onto the administrator. When the administrator heard the 2 words disciple, he was instantly struck by lightning from a clear sky. His ears were filled with the sound of thunder exploding. Not only him, Lu Shuilan, Yan Zhenfei and the others also had a look as though they had seen a ghost. Yiqing Luo was Ghost Doctor's disciple? How could that be possible? Lu Shuilan was just hooting, saying that Yiqing Luo no longer had any backing and now a Ghost Doctor appeared. She felt as though her face was being slapped. Her hands, which were hanging by the side of her body, clenched tightly into fists. Why was Yiqing Luo so lucky? What mysterious and noble people, all became her backing. First it was the Overlord, then it was Guiyu, and now a Ghost Doctor. Lu Shuilan was so hateful that her lungs were about to explode. But on her face she didn't dare to reveal any of it. The administrator's well-built body kept trembling as his voice trembled. Ghost, Sir Ghost Doctor, I didn't know that student Yi is your disciple. How would I dare to ask her to scram? Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator trembled even more violently. He suddenly slapped his own face. Left and right slaps, the strength was huge. 2 slaps and his entire face swelled up. Sir Ghost Doctor, the one who spoke rudely was me, the one who had eyes but failed to recognize Mao Tai is also me, it has nothing to do with these students. The administrator raised his head, and after meeting the ghost doctor's eyes, he immediately lowered his head again. I beg Lord Ghost Doctor, please release this group of students. When Lu Xuelan heard this, her face immediately turned pale. She dragged the two female students and knelt on the ground. Yes. This matter has nothing to do with us. It was the administrator who told student Yi to get out. We don't know anything. These words really made one's heart turn cold. The administrator only glanced at them and also knelt down. It's my fault, I beg Lord Ghost Doctor to let these students go. Yiqing Luo slowly narrowed her eyes as she swept past Lu Xuelan and the others who were kneeling on the ground as she sneered. This smile seemed exceptionally clear and ethereal in the empty library, adding some mysteriousness to it. The ghost doctor turned her head and glanced at her, her expression cold. Then she said lightly, since you spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Why do you still need this mouth and this pair of eyes? Hearing these words, the manager's face instantly turned pale. Lu Xuelan, who was kneeling on the ground, turned soft, as she was so frightened that she directly knelt down on the ground. The administrator glanced sideways at the three frightened students behind him as he clenched his teeth. Yes, spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This mouth, this pair of eyes indeed cannot be kept. Saying that, he raised his hand and congealed a burst of profound qi as he stabbed towards his own eyes. Chapter 411. Dong. A soft sound was heard and the administrator gave a muffled groan. Lu Xuelan and the others slowly opened their eyes and saw a bewitching red glow flashing past. That was Yiqing Luo's feather fan, like a ball of blazing fire, forming an arc in midair as it returned to Yiqing Luo's hand. Whereas the administrator who was struck by that feather fan earlier, his sturdy body was on the verge of collapsing onto the ground. Disciple is not satisfied with the way you handled this? Ghost Doctor squinted his eyes as he stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo waved her feather fan and pressed against her lower lip as she casually brushed past the administrator and gave a faint laugh. Since administrator has already admitted his mistake, then let's just forget about this matter. Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator laid on the ground as his clothes were soaked in sweat. He trembled as he climbed up and was just about to continue kneeling when he heard Ghost Doctor's cold voice, still not going to scram. The administrator was stunned as his eyes revealed a look of ecstasy. In other words, Ghost Doctor had let him off. He immediately kowtowed on the ground. Thank you, Sir Ghost Doctor, thank you, Student Yi. Saying that, he got up and dragged the three female students as he speedily left the second story of the library pavilion, not daring to stay any longer. Yiqing Luo saw the administrator leaving and cupped her fists towards Ghost Doctor. Thank you, Senior Ghost Doctor, for stepping forward. Ghost Doctor flicked his sleeves as he turned around and walked into the pill refining room. Yiqing Luo rubbed her nose as she followed him in. She was very curious. Why would the Ghost Doctor, who had always hated trouble, get involved in such a dispute? Just a single disagreement and he would lose his mouth and eyes, so brutal and bloody? Stand up for her? It seemed like in Ghost Doctor's heart, she hadn't reached the level where he would stand up for her. After Ghost Doctor entered the pill refining room, he stared eerily at Yiqing Luo as his half-squinted eyes revealed a sense of scrutiny. Yiqing Luo's hair stood on end from his stare as she had a taste of the administrator's feeling earlier and it wasn't a good feeling. Why did you help him? After a while, Ghost Doctor asked coldly. Help him? Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes in puzzlement as she realized that he was referring to the administrator. No reason, I just feel that the Academy's elders who are thinking for the students are worthy of respect. Yiqing Luo replied calmly. Seeing that the administrator was even willing to destroy his own eyes so that Lu Xuelan and the others could leave unscathed, this action made Yiqing Luo recall that when she walked towards Ghost Doctor, he had also disregarded Ghost Doctor's prestige and wanted to go up to stop her. This action aroused her compassion. Although the administrator was a little fierce and his words were a little harsh, his heart for the sake of the students was sincere. In this dirty academy, there was still someone with such a pure heart. Yiqing Luo respected him. Hearing Yiqing Luo's reply, Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph. You're rather kind. God. Yiqing Luo smiled in disbelief. Perhaps, the current her was indeed much more soft-hearted than before. This word had nothing to do with her in the past. But ever since she came to this strange world and met people who melted the ice in her heart, she was indeed living more and more like a human. However, she liked her current self very much. At least he had flesh and blood and he had his own feelings. Unlike before, he was like a cold killing machine living like that. Her lips curled as she smiled. Isn't Senior Ghost Doctor the same as well? Even if I don't open my mouth to stop him, I'm afraid Senior will stop him. Ghost Doctor's expression was icy cold as he didn't open his mouth to rebuke. Chapter 412. The Ghost Doctor stared at the beautiful young lady in front of him. Her smile was very bright, without any impurities, clean and pure. A pair of curved, enchanting eyes were overflowing with color. Recalling what happened earlier, when Yiqing Luo was facing the administrator and the other 3 female students, she was calm and unperturbed in the face of danger, her brows loosened slightly. This young lady was getting more and more interesting. His eyes flashed and he narrowed his sharp eyes. I thought I had already answered! ! Yiqing Luo was shocked, so Ghost Doctor also knew cold humor. She choked on her saliva and coughed violently. She opened her eyes wide and stared fixedly at the Ghost Doctor. The Ghost Doctor's expression hadn't changed from start to finish. Only her eyes had narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. Yiqing Luo shuddered. Senior Ghost Doctor's meaning is? You're really prepared to take me in as your disciple? Do I look like someone who jokes? The Ghost Doctor snorted coldly. Yiqing Luo shook her head immediately. It didn't look like it. Absolutely not at all. That meant? The Ghost Doctor really wanted to take her as his disciple? However, after these 2 days of interaction, she felt that the Ghost Doctor's impression of her wasn't that good. She was just a dispensable existence. When she came back from lunch, she also had a fierce look on her face. Why did he suddenly seem like a different person? Strange. It was too strange. There was definitely a trap. Yiqing Luo was vigilant, her eyes were like torches. Senior Gui, just say what you want to say. We're honest people and don't do underhanded things. The Ghost Doctor's eyebrows twitched. As expected, taking in disciples was simply too troublesome. Especially when he was taking in such a weird little girl. He frowned and did not want to get himself into trouble again. He directly asked the question he wanted to ask. Where did you learn the secret technique you used before? Secret technique? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. Could it be that when he used teleportation just now the Ghost Doctor had seen him? He wanted to learn about this secret technique from her. Was that why he appeared to help her when the administrator chased her away? That secret technique, if I'm not mistaken, should be the King of Thieves' teleportation secret technique. The Ghost Doctor's eyes narrowed, sharp and incisive. Teleportation secret technique. The Ghost Doctor would never make a mistake. Even if tens of thousands of years had passed, he would never forget it. These were their brothers from back then? He stopped his train of thought, his eyes revealing a bit of urgency. If he was able to find out the origin of the secret art from Yiqing Luo, perhaps he might be able to find those few brothers of his. But Ghost Doctor's words had already blocked Yiqing Luo's way out. For the Ghost Doctor to be able to accurately name the secret technique, as well as the creator of this secret technique, she naturally had a deep understanding of secret techniques. Yiqing Luo shouldn't try to use rubbish to bluff him. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment as she pursed her pink lips slightly, secretly guessing how she should explain the origin of the blink movement secret art. She naturally couldn't tell anyone about the Azure Dew bracelets. After all, this thing did not belong to this world. Moreover, if news of this were to spread, with her current strength, she would have no way of guarding the Azure Dew bracelet. After pondering for some time, Yiqing Luo decisively decided to drag that evildoer of hers out. Soldiers are trained for a day to be used in a moment. If she didn't make use of DMO Xian's identity now, when would she be able to do so? She nodded her head as she gave a bashful smile. That is indeed the blink movement secret art. I have some friendship with the Overlord and he felt that my profound grade is too low, making me easily bullied, so he taught me this secret art so that I can use it to escape. The Ghost Doctor's brows creased. Overlord? Yiqing Luo nodded her head repeatedly. That's right, it's DMO Xian. Decisively aim her target at DMO Xian. The Ghost Doctor remained silent as his eyelids drooped down, muttering softly, Overlord. Overlord. After muttering for some time, he raised his head with an agitated look as his brows creased. You're talking about that Imperial Palace's palace lord who had recently risen. People call him Overlord DMO Xian? What? There was actually someone in this world who didn't know DMO Xian. Chapter 413. The so-called legend, wasn't it something which everyone in the world didn't know about and knew about? She thought that Ghost Doctor was talking about DMO Xian because he was afraid of DMO Xian's power. She had not expected. Ghost Doctor was thinking, who on earth was DMO Xian? Alright, Ghost Doctor's world only consisted of refining pills and no other miscellaneous stuff. The next time you see that fellow from the Imperial Palace, ask him to come and see me. Ghost Doctor's next sentence was shocking. Yiqing Luo's mouth turned into an O shape once again. He was indeed Ghost Doctor. Even when facing DMO Xian, he totally disregarded him. No, now wasn't the time to be tangled about whether Ghost Doctor recognized DMO Xian or not, but Ghost Doctor wanted to meet DMO Xian. Then wouldn't the matter of her pushing the blame to DMO Xian be exposed? But since Ghost Doctor had already said so, Yiqing Luo could only brace herself as she gave a few dry laughs. No problem, Senior Ghost Doctor's request. Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I will definitely do it for you. The blame which she pushed out, even if she had to kneel down, she had to push it down. Towards Yiqing Luo's talkative words, Ghost Doctor's expression didn't change at all. His gaze swept across the pill refining room and discovered that not only were the medicinal cabinets pasted neatly with medicinal herbs' names, even the messy bookshelves were stacked neatly. It had only been a few hours. This young lady's actions were rather fast. It seemed like she knew a lot about medicine refinement. Today, because he saw Yiqing Luo displaying her blink movement secret art, he appeared to help her out of her predicament, saying that he would take her in as his disciple. But at this moment he felt that his decision was simply right. Although it was a little troublesome, but if he took in a young lady with an extremely strong innate talent in pill refining, then it would save a lot of time in future. Alright, that's all for today, you can go back now. When Ghost Doctor turned his head back, he resumed his cold and aloof look. Saying that, he seemed to have thought of something as his brows creased into a bundle. Take your hand out. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was going on, but she still stretched out her hand. Ghost Doctor placed his hand on her pulse and helped to take her pulse. Your body's recovery ability isn't bad at all. If there's no accident, take another medicinal pill tonight and you'll be able to recover completely. Ghost Doctor took her pulse and casually waved Yiqing Luo's hand away. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as her face revealed joy. He thought that he would need 3 to 5 days to fully recover, but he didn't expect that he would be completely healed tonight. The Ghost Doctor's elixirs, as well as the heaven and earth spiritual qi in the spiritual qi treasured land, were of great help to her internal injuries. Tomorrow the academy will be on holiday for 3 days. Memorize all these books. Ghost Doctor walked to the front of the bookshelf and his gaze swept across the neatly arranged bookshelf as he casually picked out 3 books and threw them towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo caught it firmly and lowered her head to take a look. Of these 3 books, one was an introduction to rare medicinal herbs and their locations, another was a recipe for medicinal pills, and the last one was the detailed steps of refining medicinal pills. It was an entry-level book for refining medicine. Although the current Yiqing Luo had already reached the alchemist level of refining pills, but she was after all a half-baked alchemist and her alchemy foundation was still not enough. These books could help her consolidate her foundation. No matter what, no matter how talented one was, one's foundation was the most important. If one's foundation wasn't strong enough, even if one reached the peak, as long as someone pushed slightly from below, it was very likely that they would fall. It was like building a house. If the foundation wasn't strong enough, if there was an earthquake or a strong gale, this house would easily collapse. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she kept those 3 books. Chapter 4:14. When Yiqing Luo walked down from the first story of the library pavilion, the administrator who had been fidgeting restlessly at the management counter immediately went up to welcome her. That fierce and rough face now carried a cautious expression. Yi, classmate Yi. When the surrounding students saw this, they all revealed a puzzled expression. Why was the administrator so respectful towards Yiqing Luo? As though he was afraid of Yiqing Luo? This must be a misconception. One must know that the library pavilion administrator was famous for his bad temper. He would shout at the students if there was any disagreement, and almost half of the students in the academy had been ravaged by his rough voice, which was like a bell. But now, he was actually being so submissive in front of a new student, and a new student from Devil class? Yiqing Luo noticed the surrounding students' gazes and knew that Lu Shuilan and the others were so frightened that they left directly, so she didn't dare to reveal the fact that she was Ghost Doctor's disciple. After all, Lu Shuilan and the others hated Yiqing Luo to the core. They were very clear that Yiqing Luo had many enemies, so how could they possibly reveal the fact that Ghost Doctor was backing her up? Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze and curled her lips towards the administrator. Everything will be fine as usual. The administrator responded and stood up to send Yiqing Luo out. This action attracted many students' guesses. After Yiqing Luo walked out of the library pavilion, she headed towards the devil class's direction. It was nearing the time for devil class's training. Yiqing Luo was thinking about the matter of accepting the intermediate profound class to participate in a class confrontation. Although Qiao Jin had already agreed to it, but Long Yunzhan was after all devil class's class monitor, so she still had to talk to him about it. The minute she entered the second door, she heard a lady's crisp voice coming from the training ground. "Your battle power isn't bad at all. Do you want to come again?" This voice sounded unfamiliar. Devil class had new students again? On the training ground, most of the students had already arrived. Everyone didn't warm up like usual, but gathered in a circle, as though their emotions were ignited, as they waved their arms and shouted. Indistinctly, there were some low shouts and collision sounds from a fight. Not long later, two figures were seen flying out from the crowd as they rolled onto the ground. The students who had gathered in a circle were shouting excitedly, as they complained to the students who had been sent flying. The two students rubbed their waists and waved their hands. "No more, no more. We're convinced." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, and coincidentally, because those two students were sent flying, the students started to move to the two sides, opening up a path. Yiqing Luo saw a petite young lady dressed in the academy uniform being wrapped up by the crowd. With one hand on her waist, her delicate and exquisite face revealed a complacent smile. Her pitch-black watery eyes flashed with the craftiness of a cat. Yiqing Luo frowned. This was not a student from the devil class. But he looked a little familiar. Just as she was about to step forward to inquire about the situation, Yiqing Luo's chest suddenly surged with a scorching feeling. Her profound heart jade actually started to burn brilliantly in her chest. She stopped in her tracks and covered her chest. Looking at that young lady again, Yiqing Luo was stunned. He was so stunned that he even forgot the burning sensation in his chest. Behind the young girl, a black shadow rose up, like a guardian god, closely following the young girl. What shocked Yiqing Luo the most was that black shadow was a gigantic phantom of a beast, faintly discernible. That was a cat, a pitch-black agile cat. Last Luo, that is the bloodline of the Beastman race. In her mind, Old Man Song's voice was heard. After the Beastman race transform into human form, every time they battle, they will summon their own bloodline, and this is also the bloodline which the contractor will inherit. Chapter 4:15. Old Man Song's voice was low. Generally speaking, humans can't see that shadow. If the shadow is seen and the enemy directly attacks it, it will cause damage to the original body. His voice revealed some doubt. How can you see the black cat shadow? Yiqing Luo also had doubts in her heart. All of a sudden, her profound heart jade became incomparably hot. When she looked at that young girl again, she could already see the black cat shadow. Could it be related to the profound heart jade? This profound heart jade did not refer to the profound heart jade that Diamo Xian had formed for her. Because it seemed that before Diamo Xian formed the profound heart jade for her, she could already see through the profound grades of wuxia and the other trash as well as the profound heart jade level. And every time this kind of heat would be transmitted from her chest. What exactly was going on? The young girl in the crowd, because she had defeated many students, was feeling proud of herself when she felt someone staring at her. Following the gaze, when she saw Yiqing Luo's face, the young girl smiled even more brilliantly. Elder sister, I finally see you." That young girl skipped and dashed towards Yiqing Luo. That pair of watery cat-like eyes sparkled with obvious excitement. Yiqing Luo discovered that when the young girl ran over, the black cat shadow behind her gradually disappeared. It seemed that only during battle, this bloodline shadow would appear to provide the young girl with strength. The young girl's hand hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. "Elder sister, thanks to you saving me, I was able to escape this calamity. Kitty has nothing to repay you. From now on I will always follow by elder sister's side and protect elder sister." The young girl's soft hand and that intimate aura, Yiqing Luo didn't have the slightest bit of repulsion. That pair of black eyes overflowing with starlight didn't have the slightest bit of hypocrisy. The Beastman race's little cat beast. Where were her ears? And that tail? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept over her head and indeed saw that her two black furry ears were hidden under her hair, and that black tail behind her was also curled up, hidden under her uniform. From this look, she was no different from a human. "Oh right, elder sister, I still haven't introduced myself." The young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a lively luster. My name is Kitty Lee, it's Lee as in Leoli, not Lee as in fox. She tilted her head and smiled. Big sister, you can call me Kitty big sister. You don't have to introduce yourself. I know big sister, you're a really, really amazing person. All the big brothers and sisters in the class really admire big sister. Hearing Kitty Lee's words, the surrounding students turned their faces away in embarrassment. No one had expected that Kitty Lee would actually say out those words about them worshipping Yiqing Luo behind her back, right in front of her face. Looking at those students' distressed looks, Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly softened. A hint of gentleness also appeared on her beautiful face. Her delicate facial features were extremely gentle. It could be said that she was a peerless beauty. The surrounding students were dumbfounded for a moment. Sister, you're so beautiful. Kitty Lee's curved eyebrows revealed envy as she rubbed her head against Yiqing Luo's arm. Kitty Cat likes beautiful sister. Do you want to contract Kitty Cat? The soft touch on his arm was like a kitten rubbing against him. Contract her? This was the reason why Yiqing Luo chose to save her right from the start. To be able to contract a beast man and obtain the cat beast's bloodline inheritance, her own strength would also receive a huge upgrade. According to the current situation, Kitty Lee's ability seemed to be not bad. She was actually able to challenge several students alone. Then why was she in the heavenly training forest and met with the evil schemes of the high profound class students? Chapter 416. Contract? The surrounding students looked at each other in dismay. They only knew that the contract was used on magical beasts. Could it be that humans could contract as well? Everyone didn't think too much about it, only thinking that this young lady wanted to follow beside Yiqing Luo, to be her follower. Who on earth are you? Suddenly, a cold voice was heard from the other end of the training ground. Tong Ziqing's expression was icy cold, her brows knitted into a bundle as she stared at Kitty Lee with vigilance. From the skills you displayed today, your profound grade must be above Mystic Profound 6th grade. And you don't panic in the face of danger, so you should be someone who is used to fighting. Most importantly, your speed is not wrong, and your reaction is extremely strong. Why would you be caught by the high profound class students in the heavenly training forest, and look so weak? Tong Ziqing's words completely voiced out the doubts in Yiqing Luo's heart. Tong Ziqing didn't understand why Yiqing Luo risked being found out by the high profound class students to save Kitty Lee. Moreover, Yiqing Luo was seriously injured by Yiqing Chen's earth profound grade pressure, and all this was because of Kitty Lee. If it wasn't for Kitty Lee, Yiqing Luo wouldn't be seriously injured, and wouldn't be tested by Yiqing Chen, and wouldn't be punished by the instructors to tidy up the books in the library pavilion, and wouldn't be so helpless when facing the killers. Yiqing Luo's current reputation in the academy made her angry. If it wasn't for the assistant class monitor who had been persuading everyone, she might not be able to hold it in and directly beat up those people who were spreading rumors. Kitty Lee let go of Yiqing Luo's arm, tilted her head and blinked her bright and crafty eyes, because Kitty Lee is hungry. Hungry? What kind of excuse was that? Everyone couldn't believe it, but Kitty Lee explained seriously. Kitty Lee was locked in that lousy forest the minute she arrived at Nirvana Realm, and had nothing to eat. Kitty Lee has been hungry for a long time. As she said that, she used her hands to gesture to open it up, and repeated, "so long" several times. Kitty Lee is so hungry that she can't move, how would she have the energy to run? That group of ferocious people couldn't see how cute Kitty was, so they beat Kitty up without any explanation. Kitty Lee's pink lips pouted slightly, showing some displeasure. If it wasn't for Big Sister saving Kitty Lee, those people would definitely want to bring Kitty Lee back to cook. Everyone was dumbfounded. What a heavy taste. Nowadays, even if there were people who ate human flesh, these students wouldn't dare to eat it in the academy. It was also because of these shocking words that the students did not pay much attention to the meaning of the words, "just arrived in the Nirvana realm," that Kitty Lee said. Ahem. Among the students, Baiming Lulu raised her hand weakly. Kitty didn't lie. When you brought her back, apart from the superficial wounds on her body, she did have an empty stomach for a long time. Tong Ziqing's expression became even more ashen. She stared at Kitty Lee for a long time before she snorted coldly and turned around to walk towards the small path of the academy. Kitty Lee, don't take it to heart. Sister Ziqing is just jealous of you. And Ai Ruopan looked at the direction where Tong Ziqing left and couldn't help but laughed. Now the one who worships Madame Qing Luo the most is Sister Ziqing. Now that she saw you monopolizing Madame Qing Luo, she doesn't feel good. Kitty Lee smiled till her eyes curved and once again held onto Yiqing Luo's arm. I want to form a contract with sister, and in future I will not let go of sister. Yiqing Luo was helpless. She wasn't a man to be snatched here and there by two beauties out of jealousy. Could it be that she wanted to kill both men and women? Activate the 3 palace and 6 courtyards mode. Chapter 417. Alright, the academy doesn't know how many students there are in the devil class. Since Kitty Cat is here, then stay in the devil class. Yiqing Luo rubbed Kitty Cat's head. She knew Kitty Cat's real identity, so naturally she believed in Kitty Cat's innocence. Although the beastmen were half human half beast, but to Old Man Song, the beastmen basically lived alone and would not intentionally blend into the human world. Deep in their bones, they still had the purity of the beastmen. It's time for training, go ahead and train. Yiqing Luo was about to head towards the academy's small path when another student called out to her from behind. Qing Luo, I heard that. You've already agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, is that true? That student stared at Yiqing Luo eagerly as his hands were clasped together, extremely nervous. When the surrounding students heard this topic, the atmosphere instantly ignited. As Yiqing Luo was seriously injured and was assassinated by the killer, these students stayed in the academy today to ensure that Yiqing Luo was safe and sound. Because of that, they didn't know what happened in the academy today. The moment they heard the words interclass competition, the students' expressions changed. Interclass competition. This was a competition that all the classes wanted to participate in with all their might. If they were successful, they would be able to advance to a higher level class and obtain generous rewards, as well as receive the respect and admiration from everyone in the academy. More importantly, this was a proof of ability. For so many years, devil classes students had been hiding in the devil class, immersing themselves in cultivation and training to advance. Even if it was actual combat training, it would be one's own people fighting against one's own people. There was no sense of satisfaction at all. As for the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition, devil classes students wanted to take part in it so much that they almost went crazy. However, their class monitor had always rejected their requests with the excuse that the time wasn't right. Today, upon hearing that Yiqing Luo had agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, all of them jumped up in joy, as though they wanted to leap 3 feet into the air. I have indeed agreed to it. Yiqing Luo lightly curled her lips. After the students got her affirmation, they couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts as they rushed forward and surrounded Yiqing Luo. Just as everyone wanted to lift Yiqing Luo up and shout excitedly, they heard Yiqing Luo spitting out 2 words. But everyone's hearts were in their throats as they stared at her. As for whether I can participate or not, firstly, I still need to seek the class monitor's approval. Secondly, I still need to see if the class monitor from class xianxia can agree to my request. Thirdly, Yiqing Luo paused for a moment. Her voice suddenly became much louder and revealed a tone like she was trying to abduct a little brother. This is the most important point, is within these 8 months, can your strength reach the level of surpassing the high profound class and win first place in one fell swoop? When the third point was mentioned, the smiles on all the students' faces gradually froze. All of them fell silent. If they were to win against the intermediate profound class or tie with the high profound class, they would have full assurance and confidence. But to surpass the high profound class and win first place, one must know if the devil class really won the championship. The academy would definitely allow the powerful and mysterious devil class to participate in the competition. Chapter 418. If devil class won, it would be equivalent to smearing the Heavenly Academy's name. Their original thoughts were merely to take part in the interclass competition, to go through actual combat with the students from other classes, to raise their own ability. To them, promotion or ranking wasn't important at all. What they wanted was to prove to the entire academy's teachers and students that they weren't waste, and that they were strong enough to support the heavens. That was all. But Yiqing Luo's target was to win the championship. This to them was an extremely huge pressure. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see the difficulty on their faces as her voice remained calm. If you have the confidence, then work hard to raise your own training in these 8 months. Lu and I will refine supplementary medicinal pills for you, and in terms of training, it will depend on your individual hard work and innate talent. The students became silent. They had no confidence. Do you know why I insist on you winning the championship? Just as the training grounds were in a state of silence, Yiqing Luo's clear and melodious voice rang leisurely. The students raised their heads as they looked at Yiqing Luo. Whereas at the other end of the training grounds, Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi didn't make a sound. In their hearts, Devil Class's students indeed had great growth, which was comparable to the High Profound class, but in terms of actual combat training and strategy, they were far from the High Profound class. Locking these students in Devil Class to train had its pros and cons. Just like previously, they limited these students to raising their individual ability, but neglected everyone's ability to work together as a team. Now there was another huge problem placed in front of them. The only actual combat training for these students, other than their classmates, was the magical beasts in the heavenly training forest. If they were to take part in the interclass competition to win the championship, it was probably impossible. Because you are Devil Class's students. Yiqing Luo's gaze was as calm as still water without a single ripple. Her tone was also calm, but in that tone, there was something indistinctly following her voice, scuttling their hearts. Devil Class is Heavenly Academy's disgrace, a waste class in everyone's eyes. If you want to clear your name to announce to the entire continent or even Nirvana realm that you are not waste, the only way is. It's fine if you don't cry out, but once you cry out, it's shocking. The students' hearts seemed to have been struck by something fiercely as they trembled slightly. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent and her tone was very calm. However, for some unknown reason, those 9 simple words caused their hearts to surge with excitement. The reason why I agreed to the interclass competition proposed by class monitor Xia is because I believe in you guys. Even I haven't given up on you, so why would you give up on yourselves? What is your dream? What was the target? You just want to be in the limelight during the interclass competition and suppress the other classes to prove that Devil Class isn't trash? What happens after that? Get beaten up by the students from the High Profound class and the Class of Gods and return to the Devil Class? Is this enough to prove his name? No. It doesn't count. If they were defeated by the High Profound class or Class of Gods, their so-called reputation would just be a joke. In the end, he suffered a crushing defeat and left the arena with his tail between his legs. Was it enough to surpass the intermediate profound class? No. They were not satisfied. How could he be satisfied? After being a waste for so many years, he finally managed to get into the Heavenly Academy but was assigned to a waste class where even the masters looked down on him. Just to surpass the intermediate profound class, how could he be satisfied? As long as you have a strong belief, believe in your own self-confidence, have your own target, and want to become a strong person who is revered by others, then give me a good answer. Chapter 419. Although the students didn't reply, but their eyes were burning with hope as they were extremely fervent. You still have 8 months' time, and in these 8 months, we will use all means to train you. Yiqing Luo's vision finally fell onto Xiao Jin, as her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Xiao Jin understood her meaning, as he shrugged his shoulders indifferently, indicating to her to do whatever she wanted. Long Yunzhan had arranged Yiqing Luo into the class committee, and in this period of time, Yiqing Luo's ability was obvious to all. Now that Yiqing Luo had started to train everyone, they naturally didn't have any objections. Yiqing Luo then retracted her vision. Sweat and hard work, then you can exchange for what you want. No matter how tough the future is, how difficult it is, as long as you persevere on, what awaits you will be a sky full of red clouds. When her words fell, Yiqing Luo paused for a moment. The entire training ground was so silent that even the students' hurried breathing could be heard clearly. Kitty Lee was infected by these words as her cat-like eyes widened, as she stared at Yiqing Luo in adoration. Yiqing Luo seemed to have done it intentionally as she gave them time to think. Approximately half a quarter of an hour later, Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she said calmly, "Of course, it's useless to say all these too early. The key is whether class monitor Xie can accept the conditions that I raised. Train well, I'll go have a chat with class monitor." The students lowered their heads, not saying a word. It was until the moment when Yiqing Luo turned around, deafening sounds erupted from her back. "We have confidence. We want to welcome the sky full of red clouds." 10 over young men and young ladies' voices were orderly and loud. In everyone's eyes, they were already disdainful waste. No matter how miserable could it be? No matter how miserable could it be? So what if they failed? They were aiming for first place to take part in the interclass competition, they just wanted to win. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back as she could feel the passion from those young men and young ladies behind her. She strode towards the small path as the smile on her lips grew wider and wider. On the way to the class committee room, she met Tong Ziqing, who was sitting by the side in a daze. Yiqing Luo spoke softly as she persuaded her to return back to training, and repeated the matter of her preparing devil class to take part in the interclass competition. Although Tong Ziqing's expression was still ugly, she still obediently returned to the training ground. When Yiqing Luo reached the class committee room, she indeed saw Long Yunzhan sitting in front of the square table, bending over the table to write something. Hearing the noise, he didn't even raise his head. Sit. You know the purpose of my visit? Yiqing Luo sat opposite him. Long Yunzhan put away his brush and put it aside. You decide, I have no objections. Ever since the conversation with Yiqing Luo yesterday, Long Yunzhan was no longer disturbed by the entanglement in his heart, as he resumed his usual calm and serene self. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Since that's the case, then I won't be unreasonable and evasive. Tomorrow is a holiday, and for the 3 days of holiday, I've decided to set up a mercenary group and let everyone take on missions. This method reminded her of the Silver Plate mercenary group she met in the Magical Beast Forest. If these students were to form a mercenary group and take on missions from the Mercenary Union, this kind of training in the wild would be much more useful than training in the training grounds. Any kind of training was more effective than actual combat training. Long Yunzhan was startled, his brows slightly furrowed. Mercenary group? Yiqing Luo nodded. Long Yunzhan had never thought of bringing these students out of the academy for training. Perhaps it was because he had no memory of this world, and the only sense of security he had was Heavenly Academy. Perhaps he was worried that Devil Class's students' ability would be exposed too early. Chapter 420. Long Yunzhan pondered for a moment and slowly nodded. If it's you, there shouldn't be a problem. The underlying meaning was that he had agreed to Yiqing Luo's suggestion. However, you will still be the leader. The vice leader and the other positions will be handed over to Xiao Yi and the others. Towards her, the backbone of the students was more inclined towards Long Yunzhan. After all, Long Yunzhan was the one who had truly saved their lives. Long Yunzhan had no objections. After discussing with Long Yunzhan, Yiqing Luo headed over to the ectoplasm treasure land. According to what the ghost doctor said, she just had to take another pill tonight and her body would be completely recovered. There were only 3 days of holidays, so the devil class had to make the best use of their time and not waste any cultivation time. She had to make a full recovery before tomorrow. After entering the ectoplasm treasured land, Yiqing Luo extracted her consciousness into the azure dew bracelet. Old Man Song checked Yiqing Luo's pulse and couldn't help but nod his head as he sighed silently. Ghost doctor? She's indeed ghost doctor. Hearing this tone, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Old Man Song, you know senior ghost doctor? Old Man Song's hand on Yiqing Luo's wrist paused for a moment before he withdrew his hand. I don't know. You don't know him? Did he really think that she had just met him? Previously, when he'd first met the ghost doctor in the medicine refining room, Old Man Song had clearly acted as if he didn't recognize her. But ever since he heard the ghost doctor's name, his entire person seemed to have changed. In addition to this sentence, it would be strange if they didn't know him. Old Man Song saw Yiqing Luo staring at him with a pair of suspicious eyes. He immediately turned his head away in annoyance and lightly landed on the stone bed that was constructed from spiritual qi and laid down. Little girl, take good care of your body and cultivate. Don't ask too many questions. Since Old Man Song wasn't willing to answer, Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't force him to ask. She sat cross-legged, closed her eyes, and began to mobilize the profound energy in her profound jade heart. On one hand she cultivated, and on the other hand she used spiritual energy to nourish her internal injuries. What she didn't know was that the moment she closed her eyes, Old Man Song, who originally had his back facing her, turned around. Spiritual qi rose in spirals, and the face under the white beard was dyed with a faint trace of melancholy. Ghost doctor. Who would have thought that the old man from the herbal sect was actually the ghost doctor? Could it be that it was really the will of the heavens? The next day, after Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, she stretched her limbs and felt relaxed. There seemed to be a flow of air flowing through her body. She felt light as a feather and didn't feel uncomfortable at all. She tried to circulate the profound qi in her body, but there was no obstruction. Her internal injuries, as well as the scars on her arm which were caused by Yiqing Qian's whip, had completely recovered. After coming out from the spiritual qi treasure land, the students of the devil class had already packed their belongings and were saying their goodbyes to one another, preparing to go home. The academy was on a holiday, so the last time to seal the academy gates was at noon. Because of this, The students had to pack their things early in the morning and strive to leave the academy before noon. Otherwise, they would be forcefully driven out of the academy by the guards. If one was unlucky and stayed longer than noon, it would be recorded as a minor demerit. By the time Yiqing Luo came out, most of the students had already said their goodbyes. On seeing Yiqing Luo walking over, Xiao Jin caressed his throat as he gave a light cough. The originally bustling training ground suddenly became incomparably quiet. All the students reflexively stood in line, their backs straight as they looked at Xiao Jin. This was a habit which they had developed over the years. Yiqing Luo slowly walked to Xiao Jin's side, as her charming eyes swept past each and every one of those childish faces. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.